So, I want to talk a bit about developing yourself as a human being as a byproduct of you having to reinvent yourself professionally. Typically, this is the other way around, right? And it happened to me the other way around, in the sense that I went through a life crisis. I was forced to start asking better and deeper questions of myself. And as a byproduct of this evolution, of this personal transformation, of this rearrangement of my thoughts and my core values and my life principles and what I feel I should do and so on, I realized that I have to grow into a person who will provide value differently than I was used to up to this point. But what I realize today is that this is not a path that you can consciously decide for yourself to adopt. What do I mean by that? Well, in a way, I was lucky that a life crisis happened to me because I then started to make better choices in my life. And that led also to a better prospect and future for me as a professional. But what happens if you are not facing a crisis? Is this kind of deep personal transformation even possible? I would argue that it's not. And it took me a lot of iterations over this train of thought, because I wanted deeply to help people experience this kind of growth that I've experienced without them having to go through a similar challenge like I did, without them having to suffer and be in this kind of rebirth process, for a lack of a better word, in which you have to challenge everything that it's normal and familiar and you take for granted and restructure everything. And it's not fair ultimately to ask or have this kind of expectations from others, because I would not have arrived in this place, I would not have come up with all the benefits of this period of my life if it were not for this crisis of mine. So changing others from the outside is impossible. I would not say it's difficult, it's impossible. People cannot be changed, right? People decide to change. If something is not okay, typically, when they become frustrated, when they become annoyed, when the price of staying the same in terms of pain and suffering becomes greater than the price of change in terms of pain and suffering, then you change. But it's typically, 90% of the time, it's a push motivation. It's something that pushes you away from a fear or a bad experience that you are currently in for something better. But not because you have these incredible aspirations in the future, but because you want to alleviate an existing pressure, an existing pain. You want to get rid of what you're currently living and experiencing. And then, when maybe you overcame this danger, start to think about the future and have more of a pull energy, more of a pull drive, right? Imagine this kind of glorious future that you can create for yourself. Define some, what I call purposeful goals, something that is not there merely to give you more of what you already have and you don't really care about, like more stuff in general. So how can you do it different? If real personal change only comes from periods of crisis, in more or less guaranteed way, so you will change into someone else if you are going through crisis. Of course, there is the risk that you don't grow out of this experience, and you are rather, going out of it completely debilitated and destroyed, and that's also a possibility. I was lucky enough that for me, it was a positive thing, right? So there is this thing called post-traumatic growth, and this is definitely what I've experienced, because I integrated what happened to me not as something bad, but rather something necessary for my own evolution, something that I had to experience in order to overcome my own limitations and limiting beliefs and superficial problems that I thought are, the most important things in my life, and clearly they were not. And I had to go through this to understand what really matters, to appreciate more the beauty of the simple things, no matter how cheesy that sounds, but it's the truth. To not have to wait for years until I feel personal or professional satisfaction. No, to not trade basically the only real thing that exists, which is this freaking moment, for a hypothetical better one, which will also happen in this freaking moment. And that hypothetical thing remains hypothetical forever, because this moment ultimately is everything there is and there will ever be. And there is no there. No matter how much I offload or project my happiness in the future, that future will come to fruition and it will never be enough. If I don't make this thing today, now, enough in itself and primary, then nothing else will compensate for that. And it takes years to really grasp the truth behind what I'm saying. And I'm laughing because I know that it sounds simple and straight and not very interesting, but it's also true. But you have to experience it, right? So back to my question, my challenge, my own challenge, right, for myself. How can I transfer what I learned about the human nature, right, about the human mind, about what it means to actually transform your life for the better, to be for a better service for others, to be a better model for the people that you care about? How can I help others experience what I'm experiencing? Because it's an amazing thing. How can I help them? And I realized that it's not fair to expect that. It's not okay to think that people can undergo a similar transformation without a personal crisis. So then I realized that we are living today an amazing period, a unique opportunity where we get to reinvent ourselves as human beings, as professionals, in terms of real value and contribution for society. And I realized that I can take this opportunity and I can use these circumstances to force the personal transformation as a byproduct of this need to reinvent ourselves professionally, right? Because if you know that you have to grow professionally, right, to be relevant and useful for the marketplace, you have to change the way you think. You have to challenge your own expertise. You have to question your own biases. You have to undermine, in terms of importance, your own beliefs. And this is personal transformation work. But it's not done for the sake of it. It's done because otherwise this reinvention thing will not happen. And if it doesn't happen, guess what? You will suffer until you will be forced to go through some sort of a personal transformation, right? So you will get to experience the pressure of the society in terms of your reinvention as a professional more and more acutely, right? This will increase as we go along. And if you don't do something consciously to take ownership of that responsibility and actually start developing yourself and articulating what you care about, what you want to build in the future. Because the execution now, it's cheap, right? Code, it's cheap. The execution is a commodity. AI can do everything that you can do in a more or less, procedural way. Even the creative thing is not something that you have a moat around. So where is your value? Where is your value as a professional? Can you identify that? How do you identify that? Well, you can start from thinking about how you can contribute. Why should someone care about you? Because you care about them, right? That's the answer. So people will care about you if you care first about them. What does it mean to care about them? Well, in a purely professional context, if you want to solve a problem they are facing and experiencing, and it's painful and urgent and, critical, if you care about resolving their problem, guess what? They will care about you implicitly. Why? Because you are the vehicle through which their problem gets solved. But you have to start caring about their problems more than your immediate problems, your personal problems. You have problems as well, we all have. But no one cares about your problems. It's sad, I know. What people care about is solving their own problems. You, me, everyone. So from that point of view, we are absolutely egoistic, right? The fact that I want to solve my problems first in priority, it's not necessarily a problem, right? It's normal. Because if I have problems, then I cannot help you. If I'm not okay with me, I cannot help you. But what you don't understand, and it took me a while to grasp with this, is that I had the order inversed. I thought that I have to care about my own problems first in order to be able to care about yours. I only recently realized, really realized, that my problems will be taken care of as a byproduct of me taking care of your problems. How about that? And it's so intuitive, you think about it. Of course, if I help you, you will start to care about me. And if you care about me and others care about me, I will really not have a lot of problems anymore. How about that? So, what's the key message here? The key message is that in terms of your evolution, you simply have to care about others and their problems. And if you care about others and their problems, you will have less problems to care about for yourself. Because we are social creatures. And as social creatures, we are biologically wired to operate under the so-called reciprocity mechanism, right? So if I do something for you, genuinely because I care and I want to help you, you will want to do something for me back. This is how it works. Of course, this can be weaponized, and it is weaponized for making money, by sales people who don't really care about you, but, give you a pen so then you can contribute to their, cause or whatever, to buy something from them. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about genuine interest to help others. And now the only problem or the only equation that you have to think about is this. What kind of problems would I love solving for people? Because if you enjoy the work required to solve other people's problems, is there anything better than that? Because you get to enjoy the process, they benefit from your help, and implicitly you grow as a professional because now you learn how to solve those problems better and better and better. You will be more and more and more appreciated for your work. And implicitly, again, you will have less and less problems because a lot of people will care about you as a byproduct of you caring about them. So the hack here is not to be the most altruistic person in the world and just care about people and their problems and, oh my God, sacrifice yourself. No. You have to simply develop a passion or capitalize on it if you already have it for solving problems that matter for people, problems that should be solved, that have some sort of monetary value behind them, so you can solve them in a business context, right? We are talking about professional growth. Find that thing, right? What would you love doing that has as a result the resolution of problems for a group of people who have money to pay you and who would like your help? That's the game. And this is not just a simple hack. I think it's the only way that it will work long term. Because if you are not really passionate about the work, if what you're doing is not actually giving you fulfillment, you will not become the best at it. And if you don't become the best at it, or among the best, you will not be able to continue to do that work indefinitely because it will just be painful for you and it defeats the purpose, right? The goal here is that we are not sacrificing the present for the future. So the main thing you have to care about, priority number one, is to do things that fulfill you, which solve, other people's problems. And is as simple as that. So, because now you learn and you care about other people's problems, you develop skills which are future-proof, which are relevant, which are directly applicable to an actual situation, to an actual problem, not just hypothetical things that you're just doing because it's written in your job description. And because these types of problems are more concrete, more real, more immediate, you have to grow implicitly as a human being to better address them. This kind of direct contact between you and the entity who is receiving your help, you might not have had it until now, and you don't know how to operate in this kind of new collaboration, right? But it's your responsibility to do it if you want to stay relevant. It's your responsibility to not only know how to solve a problem, but advertise it. Let that person know, give them proof that indeed you can do it, and then you don't have anything to be afraid of anymore. And it will force your own personal growth. You have to grow. You have to develop yourself into someone who doesn't have any more limiting beliefs, thinking that you cannot do this because you have no experience in doing it. You will start to learn stuff because, again, the alternative is that you will experience this kind of existential pressure to grow, and you will have to do it anyway at some point. So take ownership of this path, develop things for yourself that are important so that they also help others. And once you do that, it's a virtuous cycle, right? You enjoy doing things which happen to help others, and because they are being helped, they will help you back, either with support, with money, with whatever. You grow because of this process. You get to become better. You solve better problems, more complex, more useful, more important, and then you get to be remunerated accordingly. The alternative is much worse, right? You don't want to stay there. You don't want to assume that things will just be better and easier and everything will somehow magically solve itself. It won't. Do or don't, it's your choice in the end.